I would like to welcome you all to Virtual RoberCon. This is very interesting. I look forward to this conversation.
Awesome.
Black Panther and beyond. I just don't know what to say. Like, let's start off with introductions. My name's Brian Daniel. I'm from Bronx, New York originally. I live in Binghamton, New York now. I have a daughter who's in their room, hanging out. I've raised a pretty radical little geek, and I love it. And I've written for a now defunct website, but I did some reviews and for comics and movies, and now I just try to stay maintained and keep my collection going as much as I can. So I'll take it on to, I got Peter to my right on my screen, so we'll go to Peter next.
All right. I'm Peter Gillis. I came from Westchester, New York. Town of Greenberg, went to Sleepy Hollow High School in Tarrytown, New York. But now I am up here in Central New York. I worked for Marvel for about 15 years. And now I am up here. I have been writing a daily online adventure serial since the lockdown. And I am now at episode 185.
Wow.
I've met the deadline every single day for the last 6 months.
Wow,
it's pretty good too. But anyway, I'm here not because of that, but because at a point in the 80s, I wrote the Black Panther limited series with Dennis Cowan on art.
Whoa.
And it tends to get overlooked a little because it was just a 4-issue series and not the ongoing book. And I didn't actually have, nobody handed me control of the character. We're just doing a story. But Dennis really wanted to do it, and I really wanted to work with Dennis. And I can tell you the story after the introductions.
Right, I can't wait. So after that, I've got Hilton on to my right next.
Yes, my name is Hilton George. I am a convention runner, the creator and CEO of BlurredCon, the Black Nerd Convention based out of Washington, D.C. 5-year-old convention that came on the scene 2017. And we just have had just an amazing run of, understanding and welcoming and growing the blurred culture and blurred community. The community impact of the Black Panther, both the comic, the movie, as expressed in cosplay, as expressed, in comic books, as expressed through the community, has just been so profound. And, I'm looking very much forward to talking about that. I'm a lifelong blurred. I did not coin the phrase, by the way, so do not hold me responsible for that. But the community.
I love the term. So.
Oh yeah. I'd love to take credit for it, but the community existed before BlurredCon, and as a lifelong blurred, I came up in comic books, just devouring them since like age 8. And it has defined my personality in some very tragic ways. And I'm looking forward to expressing them here today with you all at RoberCon.
Awesome. Tony, you're up.
Okay. Well, I'm Tony Cade. I'm the owner of Challenges Games and Comics here in Decatur, Georgia. As far as I know and stuff, the only Black-owned shop here in Georgia. I actually got involved with sci-fi and fantasy community here in Atlanta, going all the way back to like 1983, when I was actually a staff photographer for a fantasy fair, and went on to be a staff photographer at DragonCon. I remember way back in the day attending those conventions, and I was like, one of only 5, Black people that we all knew each other attending those conventions. Now you look and there's like thousands of people at the conventions. But then again, there's no such thing as too many conventions. So actually, I've been running another convention here in Atlanta called the Atlanta Sci-Fi and Fantasy Expo, which is actually a free to the community convention. And this year, unfortunately, it was scheduled for the week that COVID really hit hard, and we had to cancel it. But we had like over 60 hours worth of programming and over 50 vendors planning on attending. So hopefully we can get back to doing that, once things, lighten up some.
And Jarvis?
Oh, hello. I'm currently department head at Historic Tennessee State University over the media centers for both campuses. I founded Black Science Fiction Society, a global social network for Black science fiction 12 years ago. I'm also the diversity track director with DragonCon. And I do a couple of other things dealing with 10Share, which is a library consortium, urban media makers, and I am the admin of a number of Facebook groups, such as Afrofuturism Central and Black Comic Creators. And of course, much like Hilton George, a lifelong blurred and technologist.
Awesome. Well, it's awesome that I appreciate all of you. I appreciate having you all here. This is fantastic. This is going to be a great conversation. I can't wait. So I'm going to start this off real quick.
Don't forget Thaddeus.
What was that?
So don't forget Thaddeus.
Oh, because I don't. You know why? Because I don't.
Right, because you got to go over, and there's that little arrow.
I gotta swap over. There you go. There you go. And then I'm like, and then his name don't show up on the side either because I got to scroll down to get him. It's like,
It's that many. Okay.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Forget my man.
No worries, brother. It's all good. And don't let Jarvis fool you. He's busier than a three-legged ninja in an ass-kicking contest. That brother is always working somewhere. Now, I've known him now for 12 years. I met them when they were first starting out at the Black Science Fiction Society. My name is Thaddeus House, and I am a speculative fiction writer. But I don't just write speculative fiction. I write a lot of other things. I'm a writer. If you've got a thing, I've probably written it, or if you've thought about writing it, I've probably done it. I write science fiction, fantasy, horror. Pretty much the only thing I haven't written yet is a comic. And I'm working on that one day. I just haven't got around to it. I need help with the scripting part. I'm not good with scripting.
I hear that.
Yeah, scripting is a beast. I love to write a story, but I don't like the transformation of the story to the script part. I just hate that thing. So I'm working on that. I've been writing for about, like I said, 12 years, but I've been a gamer since 1981 when D&D came in a bunch of really little books that you barely had anything, and they were selling them, and we had D&D back in high school. I went to Bronx High School of Science, and we played D&D there. Yeah, I'm also a New Yorker.
Yeah.
So we played D&D in high school, and I've been playing role-playing games ever since. I've even written a few. I wrote for Hero Games. I wrote for Artel Saurian Games. I've written some stuff for CFC. So I've been doing this a very, very long time, but I didn't write as a writer until about, like I said, 12 years ago, when I stopped having a day job and I started needing something to do with my time. So I started writing. My wife was very much thinking that I was bored and that I needed to be constructively doing something. So I started writing again. She found some of my writing and she liked it. And it was something from college 20 something years ago. And she said, "Who is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, those are mine." "How come your name's not on them?" Because our teacher didn't want our names to be on anything. She wanted to feel our writing. So we turned it in. No, really, that was her thing. And to be fair, today I understand what she's talking about. Back then, I thought she was some lunatic. But today, having written hundreds and thousands of articles, I can now tell my writing from anybody else's writing. People have stolen my articles, put them in their articles. I'll read their article and go, "You didn't write that." And I know that because I can select that text, take it back to a plagiarism checker, and find my article in their article. I now know what she meant. She meant that if you write long enough and you're invested in your writing, you have a sound, you have a style, you have a voice, and you know it. And that was what she was teaching us. So I learned that, and now I love to write. It's what I do. Jarvis will tell you, I write every day. Every day. I don't write a serial every day, but I write something. I write journalism, I write punditry, I write social commentary, I write technology, science, and pretty much anything. So I'm a all-around kind of writer, and I've been reading comics since I could walk. So I've been reading comics for 50 years, just about, and it's my.
I got you, B.
I am technically called the Answer Man. That's what I do. I answer questions on comics. If you go to Quora.com and you look for somebody who's answering questions about superheroes, I am that man. So
Answer Man.
I am the Answer Man.
Awesome.
All right. Well, my first question, like when I had it in my head and I had a panel in my head, it was completely different, and I love the way this is going to come off now. Who was the first hero or villain of color that made a real impact on your life? Like when you saw them and read their story, you were like, oh, I really like this character. I need to see more of this character. I hope this character blossoms into something more. And they either get their own series or they get to be spotlighted more in this series. Who was that for some of you? I'm going to start real quick. I always loved Storm. She was not the first, but she was the one that stood out. I don't want to lie. The first probably black superhero character I was introduced to was Black Vulcan on Super Friends. And because you know what, and by proxy, Black Lightning. But the one that stood out to me when I was young was like Storm. I was growing up, it was Storm, because when I was growing up, she was already pretty much established, and they had already she was already the goddess, and she was already this ultra powerful character on this team. And, that team alone was multicultural in and of itself. And I always loved that. But she was the one for me, And then, of course, the 90s series just took it to a whole new level with her speeches and whatnot. Every time she got on the screen, I can't wait. Oh, yes, please speak to the winds. I can't wait for you to speak to the lightning and ask it to come down and strike something for you, because it is going to be glorious today. So that's who it was for me. Who was it for all of you is basically what I'd like to know.
Well, I guess my story is probably the simplest, so I'll go first. And not to pander to the panel, but it was Black Panther, but it's for a different reason. I read my first Black Panther panel, like the actual panels in the comic book, I might have been 4 or 5 years old. And this was back when the reading and the looking and observing of the art were two separate processes for me. I would go through a whole comic and just, because I was an art student, I just loved to draw, and everything is kind of what my goal was with comics. And I was in Fantastic Four, and, I saw that they were in a place, again, my ability to absorb, read, if anyone's ever read, especially during the Kirby era of Fantastic Four, Reed Richards was like reading the Encyclopedia Britannica. There was like, he always used these really long words. And so I really struggled to understand really what was going on, between frames with him, because I didn't have the language observation yet. And so Black Panther comes in and kicks everybody in the ass. Can I say ass on this panel? Is this a Christian panel? I can say, okay. And so I was already impressed with the character because, one, he's kicking all of the ass off of the Fantastic Four so quickly. And I'm thinking, like, Dr. Doom is not, takes like 4 issues to get this level of ass kickery. And now everyone's laying out there with the little cuckoo birds flying around their head. And there's this dude. And I didn't even recognize that he was black, because you have to remember, at the time, they didn't throw him out there with the T'Challa face. He had the full cowl on. Yeah. So just the fact that he was Black Panther didn't I didn't think he was black. I just thought he wore black, and that was why he had the Black Panther, and he's a panther, and he jumped out the bushes. He kicked everybody's ass, and I was just like, all right. And it wasn't until they went into into Wakanda that it dawned on me that, wait a minute, this guy is black. This is not a miscolorization. I thought it might have been an error in the coloring, because the coloring wasn't as technical now as it was, back then, And so I was a fan of the character for probably one or two issues of my first read before it really sank in that this was a black character, a monarch, an African king with this story that I needed to pay attention to. And, there wasn't really a whole lot you could do with that back then. It wasn't like I could go online and go, hey guys, guess what I found? It was, I was a blurred in Sanford, North Carolina. I'm looking for other black people, at the grocery store. It's not, there really wasn't a whole lot I could do it, but I did internalize it. And it was really just the comics. There was no paraphernalia or shirts you could wear, or movies to go see or anything. There wasn't even other titles at the time that I had gotten my hands on to read. So that was the first time where I realized that there was a story to be told beyond, just like you're saying with the Super Friends. Like, yeah, you had the black characters and stuff like that, but they didn't go into their blackness in Super Friends. Yeah. You came in and you're fighting Lex Luthor, and then credits, Schoolhouse Rock, next thing. And so, this was give me some more cereal, Mom. So now that was kind of like formative for me. And unfortunately, I didn't see that reflected in any of the other geekdoms that I was participating in. I didn't see it in, I played Dungeons and Dragons religiously. I never saw, any real representation there. Video games didn't have it, music didn't have it. There wasn't really anything. So it really was just this one comic, this one guy, this one title for like 10 years before I really, really, really started to see more representation and more internalized people that I could reflect off of as a young black man in the South.
Okay. I'm going to jump in real quick. I think with me, I didn't really get super deep into stuff that really resonated with me until college when Milestone came out. And I latched on to everything I got, every comic book they printed. But before then, my first experiences from Saturday morning cartoons, you guys kind of mentioned one of them, which was not Black Lightning, but Black Vulcan. And then also Moleculad from the Teen Force. So I'm not sure if people even remember. I'm telling my age for real now.
I know that.
But I remember, rooting for them anytime they were on the TV screen. And so those two were the beginnings of black superheroes for me.
Tony? Peter?
I can take you back to like before Atlantis sank. Because my first Marvel comic was Tales of Suspense number 10.
Wow.
Titano the Giant Crab.
Yes.
Kirby Monsters. And my first Marvel superhero was Fantastic Four number 4. And I got it from I got it from the barber shop. I whined until they let me take it home. But I was always liberal and political, and I was wondering why it was all white. My first experience with a comic book character was Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos. Mm. Gabe Jones, and they colored him gray like the first Hulk at first, and they never got it, and he was white in some issues. Wow. But they had him as a trumpet player and so forth. It was also the first Jew I'd seen in comics explicitly, Izzy Cohen, so, and this was, I'm pretty sure it was you know, it was Kirby doing this.
Yes.
I mean, Stan may have had something, but, you know, it was, you know, it was multicultural. It was a war book. And of course, I didn't know at that point that, you know, the army during the American army during World War II was segregated. So Gabe Jones could not have been in a commando unit. That enlightenment came later. But, you know, the Black Panther hit me like a ton of bricks, even as a white kid. The thing that I loved about it was, you know, he didn't borrow anything. He didn't say, I attended your college in America. No, he was as smart as Reed Richards. In fact, had technology that Reed Richards hadn't seen before, and goes, and then, as you said, kicks the Fantastic Four's ass. It was, you know, it was, since I ended up doing the Black Panther, and probably one of the most political Black Panther stories outside of Don McGregor, who is a mentor, you know, of me. That came out bad. Don is a friend and a longtime mentor, and I just admired the hell out of what he was doing with the Black Panther. But Jack was starting it too. The thing that I realized later with the Panther and his origin, that Jack was paying attention to politics in Africa at that point. The whole claw and the vibranium mound really mirrored the Congo crisis in 1960. Katanga province, mineral rich, being invaded by mercenaries to try to take and make sure that all of that mineral wealth came in the same, you know, kept in the Belgian hands, you know, and so forth. And that was what was going on when the Black Panther came out. You know, and there was King Solomon's mines in it and all of that. But at the same point, it was a really, really political story, even though I just said, this is great, you know, he really was the first, and to my mind, still the best, you know, the best exemplar, the best icon that comics has yet produced, I think. I have more to say about that, but you know, I don't want to dominate everything. Yeah.
So when I was a kid reading comics, there were very few Black superheroes, and Jack Kirby was responsible for creating at least two of them. I forget who made the Prowler. The Prowler appeared in Spider-Man in 1971. The Prowler was a super, and the Prowler was my guy because he lived in the neighborhood with Spider-Man. Hobie Brown made his own equipment, all the stuff that he used, all the gear that he made it himself. And like Peter Parker, as a technology guy, I look at Peter Parker's web spinners and go, how could he have ever created those things with the stuff in his basement? I can't, you know, I still can't. And I'm like 50 plus years older now, and I'm still going, what technology would allow you to do that, but whatever. So Peter Parker fought against Hobie Brown as the Prowler, and the Prowler got waxed, no doubt. But the fact that he showed up, he was there, he gave Spidey a run for his money, he was self-made, self-taught, self-educated, and that's hard to find in Marvel. And the irony for me of this particular character was he never developed, he never evolved, he never changed. If you look at the Prowler in the latest Spider-Man movie with Miles Morales. That Prowler is not Hobie Brown's Prowler. That Prowler is what Hobie Brown should have been eventually. Because if you look at characters over the decades, they usually evolve, but they only evolve in reference to how often they're seen. So the more often a character is seen, the more likely they are to evolve. So Peter Parker evolved. Iron Man regularly evolved. Whenever they got bored with whatever he was wearing, they made something new. So the longer you're on the scene, the more you evolve. Some characters transform. They don't just evolve, they transform. They become something completely different. Every time a new writer picked up Thor, Thor changed. When Black Panther came on the scene for me, I knew he existed, but I had never seen him. The first black superhero I saw was the Prowler, super character was the Prowler. Then followed quickly by the Falcon. And then I finally got around to getting a copy of Fantastic Four 52, I think it is, when the Black Panther waxes the Fantastic Four. And it was a thing of beauty because I'm a Fantastic Four, I'm a fan. The first family, I'm a fan of the first family. And I'm like, who is this guy? And who does he? That's so ugly. The first family, like stepchildren. And I was like, who is he? And when he took off his helmet or his hat, and I was like, oh, I'm in love. I have a new hero. He beat the first family, but he's my hero. And I was a Black Panther fan after that. And then after that, I got a taste of Luke Cage. And Luke Cage, I had a love-hate relationship with because, all these guys happened at the same time, like 70, 71, 72, 69. Viking the Black, another Jack Kirby creation, happened at the same time. One of the Forever People. And basically,
Black Racer.
And yes, then the Black Racer. So yeah, we had a bunch of them all appear right around the same time. And Kirby was like, you know what? There aren't enough black characters anywhere, so I'll fix that. And he just made them everywhere. And I was cool with that. But it bothered me that some of them felt very window dressy. Like, for example, Viking the Black, he was one of the Forever People. There was 5 of them, and they mostly catered to the white members of the group, and he might get to say something once or twice, and usually it was a cautionary, don't do that. And they would do that, and then they would regret it, and he would be right, and they would look bad. And that was the sum total of his interaction with them. But I felt like we could have done more with these characters, and so many of them just didn't get their due. And I know that was partially the culture of comics. So I love these guys, but they were not doing what I wanted. And I didn't see a black character really doing anything I wanted until Jon Stewart hit the scene. And he was very, very different from what I expected. Because I hated Hal Jordan. I always have. I probably always will. But that's another story. Let's go on.
I was just told that we already only have 15 minutes left, but amazingly, we actually got through half the stuff that I wanted to talk about. It's like literally when he just said, they all came out around the same time. I was like, well, there we go. We just checked off half that list real quick. I don't want to cut anybody else off. I know Tony still has to mention his first.
Well, he can come back. Go on.
Exactly, yeah, but we're going to have to come back to that in a minute. Where we are now is exactly what I want to talk about. First of all, Prowler and Jon Stewart, I completely forgot. I got a Jon Stewart Mosaic comic as a birthday gift, and I remember seeing it and my mind was blown. And the art at the time and just the story, and I was just, and Prowler was my dude too. But anyway, moving on. What I wanted to talk about now is not only just the explosion that we've had with, as we were talking about earlier, with how Milestone completely restructured the game, because I feel like after the Milestone era, after, they brought not just these characters out, the way they told stories about the characters and how those stories were connected to their blackness changed in comics altogether. Like, they started to focus more on that in specific stories with specific characters. You started to see it more, and it be more nuanced and not as heavy-handed in stories. And like in Luke Cage comics, over evolution between the 80s and the 90s and everything else. You started to see it in comics that are coming out now with the way Marvel restructured things, and they had a Black Nighthawk, and his whole thing was all about, just taking down, just racist character, like racist people out there. And the evolution of new characters coming out, like Miles Morales, like Jaime Reyes, like one of my personal favorites, Adam Brashear, the Blue Marvel. I mean, we know there's Icon in the Milestone universe, and yes, they brought him over into the DC universe, and he was there. But to me, it wasn't the same. Even though his story literally went back to slavery, it wasn't the same as when they brought this character into the Marvel universe and said, oh yeah, no, he was like literally one of the first Marvel superheroes, and he had to go into hiding because he was Black. That being the part of his story and his we've seen an evolution of storytelling. What do you guys have to say about that? Like the fact that the movies, Black Panther, the TV series, the way it all delves into Black society, Black culture. What do we have to say about that in our last 15 minutes, I guess?
Can I
Yes.
Oh,
now that you're back, I'm sorry.
Wait, how about we give Tony his chance since he was
sure, absolutely.
Away for a sec. Tony?
Well, one of the things and stuff I had wanted to bring up and stuff is about how the different characters have evolved. We were talking before about characters like, Luke Cage, when he came out with the hero for hire. Mm-hmm. And it's also one of those things and stuff about who was writing the books. It's like when Luke Cage first came out, he was going around saying stuff like "Sweet Christmas." Mm-hmm. He was going around calling every other character out there "honey," and I'm like, okay, I'm older than a good chunk of you guys. All right, I remember the '70s quite clearly. All right, that was not part of the vernacular in any hood anywhere that I could possibly think of. It's like, where are they coming up with these words of the characters? So later on and stuff, when, I guess you could basically say when, we got to write, characters with similar backgrounds of ours, we were able to bring them up to the forefront. I think about, how much the Black Panther movie, even though, Jack Kirby created some really great things with Wakanda and gave us a really nice core. When you look at the Black Panther movie, you can see all the elements from the Reginald Hutland storyline, from the Christopher Priest storyline. So it's one of those things and stuff where, as the characters got to be known, a lot of kids and stuff. I got to mention the great, Dwayne McDuffie.
Yep.
All right, he brought so many characters to the forefront as lead writer of Justice League Unlimited. We got to see, a Black, Green Lantern, John Stewart. There's the whole generation out there that didn't even know that Hal Jordan was Green Lantern.
The whole generation doesn't even know Hal Jordan's name. I love it.
Right.
There's a whole generation that knew who there's a whole new generation that knew who Vixen was. When I saw her show up on Unlimited, I was literally like, oh, okay. And then they played her as a strong character.
You got her first appearance right here.
There you go.
It's like she's an awesome character. And, at the same time, she was on the TV show. Dwayne was writing the Justice League book, had her in the Justice League book. Mm-hmm. Now, she's kind of disappeared and gone into the background because there's no one who's writing the Justice League that are reaching back, trying to pull those characters in. And that's the main thing and stuff I think about is that, we need to have it so that our characters do stay in the forefront and that our characters do show a proper representation. So that's the main thing and stuff that I like about stuff like, the Black Panther movie, and the stuff that Dwayne McDuffie did and the stuff that Milestone did. I remember, back, like I said, the whole, I didn't even know what the term blurred was, until like much later on and it came along. But I remember that all of a sudden I started noticing a lot more Black fandom during the Milestone years. There were people and stuff that, were truck drivers running around with like Blood Syndicate comics, in their cabs, they were reading the comic books. All of a sudden and stuff, you sit there and stuff, and, they be talking about what's going on with these different characters in the Milestone universe. And then for some reason, they pop off and like mention something from like Star Trek: The Next Generation. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Now it's all of a sudden becoming cool to be a nerd, and all the things and stuff that used to be like, okay, this is like me and my one or two friends, now it's grown to be something that is like, a major part of American pop culture. So to me, it's like this, the way things have grown and the diversity, and that's what I want to keep seeing go forward.
I would say, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. And
I was just going to say, the cultural explosion is part of this reflection in writing and development of more and more Black characters, is that there is now a recognition of a viable Black audience and fandom that wasn't there in the past. And I think a lot of it has come from the expansion of the fandom because of the MCU movies and, the CW TV shows. If Black Panther hadn't made $1 billion in a month, if Luke Cage didn't shut down Netflix, I don't know that, I don't know if this is politically correct to say, but I don't know if they would have brought Milestone back. I don't know if that would have been something that would have been front of the line for, DC Comics to do. But, the Black fandom, just like Tony was saying, we have a lot of closeted blurs who interact with their fandom one-on-one. Only at their house do they read their comics or watch their anime or their cartoons or play their Dungeons and Dragons. They don't wear the T-shirts. They don't go to the cons. But if they are given access to the larger community, then you will see, you'll be surprised to see how many Black fans are out there. And I think that is all part and parcel of the writing and the stories resonating with the times, resonating with the community, resonating with, the Black narrative, and having Black people and having representation, as not just the artists, but also in the writing and the producing and even some of the distributing of these comics has made a big push for that as well.
Well, we're coming down to our final moments. I just want to get into, there was a couple of comments in the chat. Nate, our host, actually said to Mr. Gillis that he loved Strike Force Moratorium, and someone else chimed in and said it was an awesome series. We've gotten some shout outs about the panel. People are loving this panel right now, and they're thoroughly enjoying it. So to really just wrap up, everything that we just covered in the last 5 minutes is exactly the thing that I'm absolutely loving, and a lot of people are loving it too. And I know that between the movement that's going out on in the streets and in the world, actually, there has been more of a push. Like, I just want to throw out a couple of things. I mean, they're not as huge as the Milestone situation, but I mean, we've had Black Lightning have his own TV series. He got pushed forward in Young Justice Outsiders last season and shot to the head of the Justice League in that. Just recently, he just got another shout out from Batman saying he's so powerful he should be standing with Superman and Wonder Woman within the Justice League, which will probably end up happening after this. There's just some great things happening. Like I said, my character, Blue Marvel, has been kept kind of almost front and center recently in the Marvel Universe. We've had Monica Rambeau stay up front and center. Black Panther's doing his thing. I want to talk about the shout out to Ta-Nehisi Coates and his run on Black Panther, which also, was highly influential on that movie as well. And I need to get that run. If you guys haven't read half of it, or if anyone hasn't read that run, it's fantastic.
That's debatable.
Okay.
I believe it's good
Okay.
if you are a cerebral person. If you're not a cerebral person, it will not work for you, because if you like you're a Black Panther kicking ass and taking names, this Black Panther thinks a lot, and so it's not the same thing. And I want to say, hey Peter, you're a Strike Force Morituri, my favorite comic from issues 1 to 21 that I know you wrote, and I know when it changed because I stopped liking it, and I went look. Who the hell is this new guy? This is not the story I was following.
Right. Just one comment. Brent and I left issue 20. We finished off the story, and we were pleased to find that from issue 20 to 21, sales dropped by 60%.
Yeah, it was awful.
We were shouting, "You can stop reading this now!"
Yeah, it was. It was absolutely awful. So yeah, I knew when you wrote it because I was reading it. I loved it. I read Warp. I read your Grimjack. I followed your career, not realizing who you were. I just read all those stories. You were formative.
Right. And I will say, in Strike Force Morituri, which was, going to be global, I introduced Adept, the first female fundamentalist Christian Black character.
Yes, I remember that
in comics. And then, of course, I killed her. But I killed that with everybody in that book. So,
but everybody died, so that was okay.
We do have
the premise of the series. Everybody dies. I was cool with that.
I read a couple of issues of that myself, but we have some Q&A. What do you guys feel about Static Shock? Obviously, a fantastic animated series. I was so happy when I saw it get put on the air. I was probably almost a grown-ass man watching it every freaking Saturday morning.
The finest things that's ever been on television outside of the Justice League and beyond.
Right. I think it was exceptional. My son was a little kid during that time, and he loved it so much so I ended up getting the whole seasons or whatever on DVD. And really quickly, before we go, we've been talking about DC and Marvel. I just want to throw this out really quickly. Around the same time that Milestone came out, there was a Nia Comics, and those were independent. So I'm always rooting for the independent, so I had to bring them up. They had comics like Original Man, Nubian Warrior. They had Zulu, and even Horus. So think about those in terms of evolution as well.
I'm always looking for indie comics. I actually, at the last panel, I had brought an indie comic which someone had done a black take on Sherlock Holmes in Harlem. And it was actually a really good read. And once I was like, as soon as I finished reading it, I was like, someone needs to go bring this to, oh man, I'm forgetting his name now. Not from Get Out. He was in Knives Out. Getting his name.
Jordan Peele?
No. They need to bring it to him to direct, but I can't remember the gentleman's name. But I was literally like picturing this in my head, and then the other dude from
Watson and Holmes series.
Watson and Holmes.
That was a great seller here in the shop.
Yeah, you see,
it's a brilliant piece. Brandon Easton is a great writer.
See, there we go. So apparently we have to close the Zoom meeting, but thank you, everybody. I'm going to be writing an email to everybody. I would love to keep in touch with all of you. This was fantastic. Hopefully things get to go back to normal, and if we can, I'd like to either be able to get some of you back again, if you can, and if not, then we'll Zoom it out. But
Wakanda forever, brother.
All right.
Everyone have a great day.
All right.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.